Whenever your favorite alt starts to drop, it's usually depressing. Now, price action is very stimulating, either up or down. Involves strong emotions, and Aero is not different from that perspective. However, when it comes to DeFi tokens in general, there's so much more to them than simply a line on the chart. And that's something that you should be aware of. There are so many metrics, so many indicators that tell you if this DeFi protocol is doing well, which will eventually reflect on its underlying asset if things align, if the correlation is strong, or if things are going bad, and this is potentially where you should look elsewhere if you decide to. Aerodrome, trust me when I tell you, Aerodrome is not very close or not even close to being underperforming. Here is some metrics that not many people tend to look at, and on this channel it's where you're gonna see them, because on other channels potentially you'll be seeing the potential to earn 100, 200, 300% APR on whatever, and that's always, trust me when I tell you this, it's always very misleading. Dune Analytics is a platform that I tend to look at when it comes to these things. When you come to the idea of analyzing the metrics of a protocol, this is where you should look, amongst other places, of course. Now, usually I would show you the TVL, how it's performing, how's the volume, but all of these things are staying within the norm. So you can clearly see that the TVL is not decreasing. You can clearly see that the volume is still keeping up. Granted, some epochs are less than others, but overall the trend is clear. Same for the fees, because remember, more volume equals more fees and vice versa. Now, let me show you something that is very interesting, and that's potentially something you might have overlooked. Now here, sure, the lock duration is still doing well, VIRO is still being locked up, and that is, argument to the idea that this chart shows you that the VIRO increase is still happening, right? So here, for example, you had the dip, you had the decrease for some reason. Now, of course, we're still having those small pumps, depends on the epochs, but overall, we can clearly see that more IRO is being locked up as the protocol advances from epoch to epoch. This is the one I want to show you. So the supply distribution, all right? We all know that IRO is an inflation dependent token. That's pretty clear, right? So in order to benefit from this, you have to lock it up and take away some of the incentives when you vote. Now, the cool thing is that as we go forward from epoch to epoch, that number, so the total emissions per epoch, will decrease. You can clearly see the trend. The percentage of decrease depends on proposals. Right now, it's about 1% more or less. So as we advance, we get less IRO hitting the market. And if people want to keep their high APRs, they need to bribe more. Because if they keep giving away the same amount of bribes from epoch to epoch, their APR will be decreasing. More will be going to people who add more to their bribes. And that's how it works. Unless, which is not usually the case, more fees were generated, that makes up for the gap in bribes, and therefore the total incentives will be more or less the same or increase a bit. And that should tell you that if protocols pay less or pay the same, over time their APR will decrease, meaning less IRO will go to these people and more to people who give more money. And if people are giving more money, means VIRO lockers will actually take more money at the end of the day. So just imagine this equation. There's less supply hitting the market every single week, right? So if the price keeps on depressing and there's less supply on the market, at some point that price cannot keep going down, because those incentives will make up that price decrease and therefore will incentivize people to buy up those cheap IRO tokens, lock them up, and take advantage of potentially ever increasing incentives from one epoch to the next. So less supply, more incentives, more demand for the token. So there is this line of equilibrium type of situation where at some point the price can no longer drop this much just due to panic or whatever the case might be, and people are going to take advantage of those cheap Aero tokens. All right, so this is how you should look at it. The supply won't become deflationary, of course, but will become disinflationary, meaning less and less and less will hit the market as we advance. And another thing I want to show you as well is that here, if you look at this, you can clearly see that more tokens, so because the color is green means it's positive, so more tokens are being locked up, meaning that contract where you have more Aero being locked up will keep on increasing. Less supply, more locked tokens, eventually more demand will hit the market. And this is why I told you at the beginning that even though you see the price being depressed right now, this isn't any indicator whatsoever that the party is over. As long as our metrics are strong and as long as we understand the mechanics, eventually this price will catch up to the demand that is behind the DeFi protocol. And this is how I see it, right? So the moment these metrics start weakening, this is when the alarm bell could, start signing off. Going back to the chart, yes, again, it's not looking so well, and I like to usually look at the relative performance versus Ethereum because most altcoins are paired with Ethereum, and you can clearly see that the underperformance has been going on for months now. So if we do some quick math from the top, that's approximately around 72% in depreciation versus Ethereum. So if Ethereum pumps, potentially the USDC price will go up and hopefully some underperformance will make up. So like I said, this isn't to tell you that, 72% underperformance, go buy Aero. No, by any means. Understand that for now at least, emissions are still a bit higher than slipstream fees. And that adds up to the other side of the equation to what I just displayed. So when also this catches up, then the Aero price will no longer be depressed, at least from a logical standpoint. But keep in mind that the market is most of the time illogical. So you might see discrepancies, you might understand the equation, but then you might look at the price and be like, okay, why aren't people buying? What's going on? But eventually there will be a breaking even point. So it wouldn't make much sense for the price to be so depressed, whereas it would be so easy for lockers to earn much more than basically people who simply dump their tokens on the market. Hopefully this video brought you some clarity and potentially some insight on whatever you should be doing going next. Again, don't ring the alarm bells as long as the metrics are strong. And they clearly are based on what I showed you. We do have a Telegram group, consider joining. And our project Numerical has launched. Check it out. All links will be below. And with that, see you in the next one. Have a good one.